The day I won the lottery, my family made me sign away my inheritance. The day I won the jackpot, I ran home with the lottery ticket tucked inside my coat pocket, feeling as if life had finally opened a door for me. I thought I would hug my mother and tell her that from now on, we would no longer have to count every dollar. I would buy her a better home, take her for regular health checkups, pay off the old debts, and give my brother some money so he could start over. I thought that day would be the beginning of a happier life for our family. But the moment I sat down at the dinner table, my mother put down her fork and said, "Emma, tomorrow you're coming with me to the lawyer's office. You need to sign the paperwork transferring both houses to your brother." I looked up sharply. What houses? My mother stared at me as if I had asked the stupidest question in the world. The two family properties. The house I live in and the rental house at the end of the street. Of course they're going to Ryan. Who else would they go to? I froze. I'm your child too. My mother slammed her bowl aside. Soup spilled across the table. Remember this clearly, she said, each word cold and hard. The Brooks family property belongs to your brother. You're a daughter. You don't have a share in it. My hand tightened around the lottery ticket in my pocket. That ticket was worth $2.6 million. Even after taxes, I would still have enough money to live the rest of my life without bowing my head to anyone. But in that moment I did not feel joy. I felt a chill run down my spine. I looked at my mother and asked, if all the property belongs to Ryan, then in the future will he be fully responsible for taking care of you? Your living expenses, medical bills, nursing care, everything. My mother shot to her feet as if I had slapped her. Emma Brooks, how can you say something like that? I raised you, fed you, sent you to school, and now you want to abandon your own mother over two houses. I stayed seated. Didn't you abandon me first? She pointed a finger at my forehead. You went to college and ruined your brain. Only a heartless person would calculate things like this with family. I let out a quiet laugh. Family only shouldn't calculate when you need me to pay. But when it comes to dividing property, you calculate very clearly. My mother's face flushed red. Your brother is a man. He needs to get married. He needs a house. He needs to be the head of the family. You're a woman. One day you'll marry and belong to someone else's family. Why are you fighting your brother over property? I looked at the woman in front of me. She was my mother. The woman who had once held my hand when we crossed the street. The woman who had sat beside my bed when I had a fever. The woman who had held me and cried at my father's funeral. But she was also the woman who had taught me since I was a child that Ryan was born to be loved while I was born to be useful. My father died in an accident when I was in high school. The compensation money was not huge, but it was enough to make my mother's life easier. She used part of it to buy gold jewelry, saying she was saving it for her future daughter-in-law. Another part went toward Ryan's summer camp, driving lessons, and gaming computer. As for me, when I got my college acceptance letter, my mother only said, "You're grown now. If you want to study, figure it out yourself." I worked the entire summer, took out student loans, and paid them back month by month after I started working. Once I had almost saved enough for my first semester's tuition. Ryan secretly took the money and gambled it all away. My mother said it was not his fault. He just wanted to change our family's future, she said. He was only unlucky. And what about my tuition? I had to figure that out myself. Since childhood, all the housework had been mine. Cooking, washing dishes, doing laundry, cleaning floors, taking care of my mother whenever she was sick. Ryan only had to sit on the couch and scroll on his phone. When I asked for money to buy exam prep books, my mother said we did not have any. The next day, she gave Ryan money to hang out with his friends. When I protested, she said, "Girls need to learn endurance. Men have to go out into the world. They need experience." I had heard words like that for 25 years. And for 25 years, I tried to be a good daughter. I studied hard. I got a job. I sent money home every month. Every payday, I transferred nearly half my salary to my mother, while I lived in a cramped rented room and ate instant noodles at the end of the month. I thought if I was obedient enough, successful enough, patient enough, one day my mother would look at me and say, "My daughter is amazing. I'm proud of you." But no. Today, she only looked at me and said, "The family property belongs to your brother." I took a deep breath. "Fine," I said. "I can sign away my share." But there must be a written agreement. From the day I sign, Ryan receives all the property, and Ryan takes full responsibility for taking care of you. I won't take the houses and I won't carry the obligation. My mother looked at me as if I were her enemy. You ungrateful thing. Then what do you want? I asked. Ryan gets the assets, but I share the responsibility. She did not answer. Because that was exactly what she wanted. She wanted Ryan to have everything good. And she wanted me to remain the backup wallet, the backup caregiver, the backup daughter. That night my mother kicked me out. She opened the door, threw my bag into the hallway, and shouted loudly enough for the neighbors to hear. Get out. I don't have an ungrateful daughter like you. Several neighbors cracked their doors open and looked out. A few looked embarrassed, but no one said anything. I bent down, picked up my bag, and walked out of the home where I had lived for more than 20 years. That night I booked a cheap hotel room. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I took the lottery ticket out of my pocket. Without that ticket, maybe I would have cried until I had nothing left. But looking at the winning numbers, I suddenly saw everything clearly. Maybe God had not given me this money so I could repay my family. Maybe He had given it to me so I could escape. That night, the family group chat exploded. My eldest aunt wrote, Emma, how could you hurt your mother like this? It's just signing some papers for your brother. My second aunt said, it looks terrible for a daughter to fight her brother over property. When you get married, your husband's family will take care of you. One uncle sent a long voice message. The point was simple. My mother had suffered to raise me, so I owed her gratitude. Ryan wrote directly in the group, you dare fight me over property? Who do you think you are? Daughters don't get Brooks family houses. I stared at the screen for a moment, then typed, you all say daughters shouldn't receive property from their parents. Then when grandma and grandpa get old, my aunts won't need to send money for their care anymore, right? Whoever gets their house should take care of them. The group went silent for a few seconds. Then my uncles-in-law began to speak up. Exactly. Whoever receives the property should take care of the parents. That's fair. My uncle immediately objected. That's not how it works. Parents belong to all their children. Caring for the elderly is everyone's responsibility. I read the messages and laughed. So everyone did understand fairness. They only pretended not to understand when the unfairness did not fall on them. I left the group. Soon after, my Aunt Lily, my mother's youngest sister, sent me a private message. Where are you? Are you safe? Do you have enough money for a hotel? I looked at that message and my eyes stung. While the entire family was busy calling me ungrateful, only Aunt Lily asked if I was safe. Aunt Lily had always been called selfish by my mother's side of the family. Years ago, when my grandparents left all their property to my uncle but still expected their daughters to contribute money for their care, Aunt Lily was the only one who objected. From then on, she was labeled an ungrateful daughter. Now I finally understood. Some people are called ungrateful not because they are wrong, but because they are the first ones brave enough to say no. The next morning, I took the earliest train to the state lottery office. I wore a hat, sunglasses, and an oversized coat. I refused interviews and refused to take photos. After the tax paperwork was completed, the amount transferred into my account was still so large that my hands trembled when I looked at the banking screen. I set aside money to buy a home. I placed the rest into several savings accounts, safe investment funds, and a long-term emergency reserve. For the first time in my life, I had money. Not money that had to be split the moment my paycheck arrived. Not savings my mother could borrow and never return. Not money meant to fill the holes Ryan created. It was my money. Money for me to live. That afternoon, Ryan called. The moment I answered, he screamed into the phone. You bitch, where are you? Mom and I waited at the lawyer's office all morning. If you don't come back and sign this afternoon, I'll go to your workplace and make a scene. I cut into my steak at the restaurant and calmly asked, then will you take full responsibility for Mom's care? She's your mother. You have to support her. And the houses? The houses are mine. I'm the only son. I laughed. Ryan, do you hear yourself? He hung up. An hour later, my manager called. Emma, your brother is at the office. He's yelling, breaking things, and demanding to see you. Should we call the police? I closed my eyes for 1 second. In the past, I would have begged them to let it go. I would have apologized for Ryan, paid for Ryan, cleaned up after Ryan. But this time I said, call the police. Don't hold back because of me. Ryan was arrested for disorderly conduct and property damage. My mother called and cursed at me for nearly an hour, saying I had ruined my brother's life. I only replied, he did it. He can face the consequences. Then I blocked her number. 2 days later, I went to Aunt Lily's house. She made me a simple dinner. Hot soup, bread, and salad. She did not ask me where my money came from, and she did not blame me for being stubborn. She only said, you don't have to become a bad person to escape bad people. Do everything with clear paperwork. Assets, responsibilities, rights, obligations. The clearer things are, the harder it will be for them to drag you back down. I listened to her. I hired a lawyer to draft an agreement. The terms were clear. I would voluntarily give up all rights to the 2 family properties. In return, Ryan Brooks, as the recipient of all the assets, would take full financial responsibility for our mother's future care, including housing, living expenses, medical bills, and long-term care. I would have no further financial obligation after the document was signed and notarized. On the day we signed, my mother rushed toward me the moment she saw me and tried to slap me. Aunt Lily stepped in front of me. Emma is your daughter too, she said. Don't go too far. My mother sneered. So it was you who encouraged her. Being an ungrateful daughter yourself wasn't enough. Now you're teaching my daughter to turn against me. I pulled Aunt Lily behind me. No one encouraged me. You kicked me out. If Aunt Lily hadn't asked whether I had somewhere to sleep, would you have cared whether I was safe on the street? My mother showed no guilt. If you had signed obediently from the start, would I have kicked you out? I looked at her. Only then did I truly understand. It was not that my mother did not know she was hurting me. She simply believed I deserved to be hurt if I did not obey. The lawyer's assistant read every clause aloud. When she reached the part where Ryan would be responsible for our mother's care, my mother immediately frowned. We're family. Do we really need to write it so clearly? I smiled. If we're family, why do we need to transfer the houses right now? We can just divide them according to the law later. Ryan grabbed the pen and signed immediately. My mother signed too. I looked at their signatures on the document and felt less pain than I had expected. Maybe because I had already begun leaving them behind the night I was thrown out. After that, Ryan received both houses, and I went to buy my first home. I chose an apartment by the river, in a city nearly 2 hours away from my mother's house. It was not too big, but it had beautiful light, a wide balcony, and a window overlooking the water. I paid in full. Standing in the empty apartment, I placed my hand against the wall, still cold and smelling faintly of new paint, and whispered, Emma, you finally have a home. Not a place where someone could open the door in the middle of the night and throw me out. Not a temporary room in someone else's house. My home. Over the next few months I renovated the apartment, chose furniture, traveled with Aunt Lily, and ate at restaurants I had never dared to enter before. Aunt Lily never asked how much money I had. She only reminded me, always keep a way out for yourself. I smiled. That's exactly what I'm doing. I thought my life had finally become peaceful. Then one day my mother called me using my eldest aunt's phone. The moment I answered, I heard her crying. Emma, Ryan sold both houses. He owes gambling debts. The creditors are coming after him. I have nowhere to live now. You can't abandon your mother and brother. We're still blood. I closed my eyes. This ending was not hard to predict. Ryan had never been able to hold on to money for long. The 2 houses had only made the hole deeper. I said, we have an agreement. Ryan received the property. Ryan is responsible for taking care of you. My mother's tone changed instantly. Don't pretend to be poor with me. I know you bought that riverside apartment. Sell it and use the money to pay your brother's debt. If you don't, I'll sit outside your building and cry every day so everyone knows what an ungrateful daughter you are. She did exactly what she threatened. A few days later, my mother and Ryan appeared outside the gate of my apartment complex. They held up banners with my name, my apartment number, and even my old phone number written on them. My mother sat on the sidewalk crying in front of people live streaming on their phones. My daughter won money, bought herself a beautiful home, and left her elderly mother with nowhere to go. The story spread quickly. In the residence group chat, people began talking about me. She looks like such a decent woman. How can she be so heartless? Her mother is crying outside the gate every day. Isn't she ashamed? I hope this doesn't lower our property values. I read everything, but I did not respond. I once thought that if I stayed silent, it would eventually pass. But then one day, my mother brought local reporters with her. The moment I appeared at the gate, a female reporter shoved a microphone toward me. "Miss Emma Brooks, why are you living in a luxury apartment while your own mother has nowhere to stay? Do you believe your actions go against basic family values?" I looked straight into the camera. "Did you verify my mother's story before asking that question?" The reporter froze. I took a folder from my bag. "This is a notarized agreement. My family owned 2 houses. My mother required me to give up all my rights so both properties could be transferred to my brother. My only condition was that whoever received the assets would be responsible for caring for my mother. My mother and brother both signed it." People around us began whispering. My mother screamed, "She's lying. She's an ungrateful daughter." I took out my phone and played the recording of our call. My mother's voice rang out clearly. "Sell your apartment and use the money to pay your brother's debt. If you don't, I'll cry outside your building every day." The atmosphere changed instantly. The same people who had been judging me began turning toward my mother. A man nearby said, "Wait. She gave her son 2 houses, he sold them both. And now she wants her daughter to sell her own apartment to pay his debts too." A woman shook her head. "That isn't family duty. That's exploitation." The female reporter went quiet for a few seconds, then signaled for the cameraman to lower the camera. I looked at her. "You're a reporter. Before asking leading questions to frame me as the villain, you should have verified the facts. I will be filing a complaint with your station." Her face went pale. The live stream changed direction very quickly. People found out about Ryan's gambling, the property transfer, and the years I had sent money home. The story was no longer about an ungrateful daughter. It became a story about a family using love as a leash. My mother and Ryan left under the weight of everyone's criticism. After that, Ryan continued sinking deeper into debt. He got involved in a fight with some dangerous creditors and ended up in the hospital for a long time. My mother eventually received temporary housing assistance and a small welfare subsidy from the local government. Someone once asked me if I felt sorry for them. I said no. Not because I did not have a heart, but because they had used my heart for too many years. At the end of that year, I moved into my new apartment. On the first night, I did not go to sleep right away. I turned on every light and walked barefoot from the living room to the kitchen, from the bedroom to the balcony. Outside, the river shimmered under the city lights. Windows glowed in the distance like thousands of other lives quietly continuing. I stood on the balcony for a long time. I thought about the girl who once stood in a hallway, holding the bag her mother had thrown out of the house. I thought about the girl who once believed that if she was more obedient, more successful, and made more money, her mother would love her more. I wanted to go back and hug that girl. I wanted to tell her, "You do not have to buy love with your own sacrifice. You do not have to turn yourself into a home for people who are always ready to throw you out. You do not have to keep paying debts for a family that never saw you as an heir, only as an obligation." I looked down at the key in my hand. Cold, small, real. Then I smiled. "Emma," I whispered, "you have a home now." After 25 years, I finally had a place to return to. And this time no one could ever kick me out again.